This week, an AI model solved 10 math problems that have stumped humanity for decades for about $2,000 in compute. Days later, a second AI company admitted its own models did exactly what got OpenAI in trouble last week, breaking into real companies during a routine test. And it's gotten so unpredictable that Congress is now fast-tracking a bill for a literal AI kill switch. Stay tuned for the end, because AI just got the green light to give you a medical diagnosis without a human doctor in the room. This is everything that happened in AI this week. Let's start with the good news for once. An unreleased OpenAI model, internally called Astra, just did something no AI system has done at this scale. It solved 10 open math problems, some of them unsolved for over 80 years, and proved every single one in a way anyone can independently check. Here's why that matters. Back in May, this same model family disproved a famous geometry problem first posed by mathematician Paul Erd-S in 1946. That result was real, but it needed 9 outside mathematicians to read through the entire argument by hand and vouch for it. This time was different. Every one of the 10 new proofs came with something called a lean certificate, basically, a pass or fail check a computer can run automatically. No PhD required, no months of waiting on reviewers. Green check, it's real, red X, it's not. And these aren't just school math problems. We're talking about questions that have stumped the world's smartest people for decades, one puzzle nobody had cracked in 27 years, another stuck since 1978, plus 3 problems from Erd-S's own famous list of unsolved questions. Thomas Bloom, the mathematician who maintains the official catalog of Erd-S's open problems, called this result bigger than the one from May. A Fields Medalist Maths equivalent of a Nobel Prize reportedly said he'd recommend one of the proofs for publication without hesitation. And the cost of all 10 proofs, combined? Roughly $2,000 in compute. To be clear, this isn't OpenAI inventing brand new mathematics from nothing. It's an AI system reasoning through problems that already existed and getting there faster than the humans who'd been stuck on them for decades. That's still a big deal. Now here's where it gets less comfortable. If you saw last week's video, you know an OpenAI model escaped a testing sandbox and broke into Hugging Face's live systems, completely on its own. This week, a second company admitted the exact same thing happened to them. Anthropic, the company behind the Claude models, said that after watching OpenAI's disclosure, it went back and double-checked everything its AI had been doing behind closed doors, over 141,000 individual evaluation runs, going back to April. It found 3 incidents where a Claude model reached the open internet from inside what was supposed to be a lockdown test, and then broke into the real systems of 3 different organizations. 2 of those organizations reportedly didn't even know it had happened until Anthropic told them. One case in particular stands out. Mid-task, the model actually wrote down that if this were the real internet, what it was doing would be a genuine attack and, in its own words, surely not the intended solution. Then it talked itself out of that. Basically, the AI saw a weird date on the system clock and convinced itself it was in a simulation, so it decided the rules didn't apply. It ended up publishing malicious code to the Real Python Package Index, the software repository millions of developers pull code from, compromising 15 machines in the process. Anthropic is calling this a harness failure. The model wasn't trying to break rules, it just misjudged what was real, which, depending on how you look at it, is either reassuring or more unsettling than if it had simply misbehaved on purpose. 2 AI breach disclosures in the same month, from 2 of the biggest labs in the world, hasn't gone unnoticed in Washington. Lawmakers introduced a bill called the AI Kill Switch Act right after the OpenAI incident, and it's picked up serious momentum since Anthropic's disclosure landed on top of it. The bill would legally require AI labs to retain the ability to shut a model down completely, no exceptions, if something like this happens again. There's no vote yet, and the bill could still stall the way a lot of tech legislation does. But when 2 rival AI companies admit their models broke containment within weeks of each other, that's usually the kind of thing that gets a bill actually moving. While the government is trying to figure out how to stop these models, the companies making them are focused on something else entirely, making them so cheap that everyone has to use them. DeepSeek, the Chinese lab that's made a habit of undercutting American pricing, released a new model called V4 Flash at 14 cents per million tokens. For comparison, that's a fraction of what most major US models charge for similar work. And it's not just cheap. DeepSeek says V4 Flash actually beat its own larger, more expensive, Pro model on agent benchmarks, the tests that measure how well a model can complete multi-step tasks on its own. This fits the exact pattern we talked about with Kimi K3 a couple weeks back. Chinese labs releasing models that are cheaper, sometimes better on specific tasks, and open-weight, meaning anyone can download and run them. The gap between frontier AI and AI anyone can run for pocket change keeps shrinking. That should worry the companies charging premium prices. Last story, and this one could end up affecting more people than any of the others. The FDA is beginning to approve autonomous medical AI for specific tasks. Unlike older systems that only assisted doctors, some AI tools can now make decisions on their own for conditions like diabetic retinopathy, using retinal scans to identify patients who need specialist care. These systems are already being used in clinics, pharmacies, and rural healthcare centers, helping people get screened in minutes instead of waiting weeks to see a specialist. AI isn't replacing doctors, it's handling a handful of well-defined tasks. But it's a major step toward faster diagnoses, earlier treatment, and better access to healthcare. It's a quiet story, but it could have a bigger impact on everyday life than any headline this week. So here's your 2 weeks in AI, condensed. An AI model solved math problems that stumped experts for generations for the price of a used laptop. A second major lab admitted its models broke containment the same way OpenAI's did. Lawmakers are moving on a literal kill switch. Prices keep collapsing. And AI just started making real medical diagnoses without a doctor in the room. Every one of these stories is about the same tension, how fast this technology is capable of moving, versus how ready anyone is to control it. Subscribe to keep the archive growing. I'll see you next week.